Tree of Heaven by G.W. McClary. Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish has been caught, and the last stream poisoned, we will realize we cannot eat money. Cree Indian proverb. When I was a little boy, I swallowed a seed. I gulped it down whole, the smooth husk sliding along my gullet until it landed in the dirt I'd swallowed some time before. My logic was simple. I knew seeds needed soil to grow. Over time, I felt the tree growing inside me, until one morning I looked in the back of my throat to see a branch poking through. I reached into my mouth and pulled. My eyes watered as I tugged the little sapling hand over hand. Finally, the roots passed my lips, coating my mouth in dirt. I propped the little tree against the bathroom sink and rinsed out my mouth. I felt empty, like I had just given birth. I looked down at my miracle tree, my immaculate agriculture. I knew then that I had the answer to some great question, though I wasn't sure exactly what. It was such a natural thing for a boy to do, swallow a mouthful of dirt. The trick was to wash it down with plenty of water. Though they thought I was asleep, I would listen to my mother and father's late-night conversations. Do you really think it was the last tree?
There is no if, Susan. They've scoured the globe, and that was the last tree.
But if what they reported is true, why would it have been an indigenous person who cut it down?
Indigenous people have been destroying their own forests for centuries as a form of protest.
Somehow, even then, I knew my father couldn't back up that claim. I guess it makes sense. They are taking ownership of their land by being the first to destroy it.
Darling, I love you, but you make the human race seem so wicked.
Don't do that. Don't lump us in with everyone else. You always do that. As always, when they began to argue, I tuned them out and plummeted into the depths of child sleep, dreaming of a desert world devoid of green. One morning, there was a knock at the door. We were eating at the table. My mother and father's eyes met, their faces lined with worry. We'd never had a visitor until that point. My father stood and peeked out the window.
Shit, he said.
How many? My mother asked him.
A lot, and they're armed.
Shit, my mother echoed. What do they want?
They know we're here. No sense in hiding.
He strode to the door. Richard, my mother warned. My father inched open the door and raised his hands, the universal sign of distress.
We don't have any weapons,
he said.
We want the boy.
A scarred man at the head of the group said. There was maybe a dozen of them. Richard, just give him to them, my mother whispered. My father's jaw went slack and he stared at my mother. Then his face slowly grew tight and resolute. It was the last time I'd see either of them for quite some time. We walked and walked and walked while the man who'd taken me didn't speak. For days and days we walked. As I had stayed close to home, heeding my parents' warnings, the landscape was new to me. There was no green. That was the biggest thing I remembered. As far as we walked, I never saw a living thing that was green. It wasn't until later, when I learned of death and decay, I found there was another, darker green, the mucus-like green of decomposition. If life was currency, that bitter green was the change left over at the end of the deal. We came upon a squat concrete building tucked into a canyon. As it rested against the steep cliffs, the only way to reach it was by crossing a short rope bridge. My captors finally stopped walking, and I with them. 2 sentries stood outside the door of the little structure, armed with rifles. I followed the radicals to cover as their sniper took his position on the rocks above. I heard one shot, then another. The sniper shambled down the rocks and nodded at the leader, the scarred man. We rose and made our way across the bridge. I closed my eyes the whole way. The leader unlocked the door with a key he'd found on one of the fallen sentries and stepped inside. He returned some time later, producing a pouch from his pocket. "Open up," he said. I said, "Ah," and he popped a seed into my mouth. I swallowed it down. wondering if this strange man wished me and me alone to repopulate the world with trees. The gestation period for this particular tree was fraught with melodies. My eyes stung, my throat swelled. I developed lesions on my skin. When the effects began to take hold, the magic among the radicals stuck me in the leg with an EpiPen. The swelling subsided and the lesions eventually healed. All the while, the tree grew and grew inside me, until one morning I birthed it. The leader snatched the tree from me and planted it in the ground. "What now?" I asked him. We made the long walk back to my home, where they returned me to my parents. The tree I produced was prolific, spreading its seed across the land and bringing a terrible plague with it. The symptoms I'd experienced racked my mother and father until they seized on the floor dead. I ventured outside, where the ground was now littered with the progeny of the tree had grown, but I was immune to its effects. In time, the trees became so abundant, so dense, that they blocked out the sun, the noise, everything. I wandered and wandered with no sense of direction, no reference points, no sense of purpose, until eventually I took my final resting place. The saddest part was, I knew that even though I had restored trees to the world, the damage we've done to the earth was too great. Though man had been destroyed for good, the planet was still doomed. It wasn't enough. None of it was enough, but none of that mattered. At least, for a time, the world was green again.